Hello, hello, and happy Halloween almost. Hey, Corey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. So, we are here live to welcome our first Halloween peeps and puppies. This is a masterclass. It is Friday at 11 o'clock my time, PST. What time is it for you, Corey?
It's 2 p.m. here, Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. So, again, welcome to our masterclass. We're really targeting if it's your puppy's first Halloween. We do want to make sure that this is streaming live on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching it live, you can actually go into the comments and ask questions as they come up. We have we have the ability to see who is commenting. So any burning question, go ahead and ask it. We will be able to answer you live. If you're watching the recording, feel free to drop in your questions later on. We will be scrolling through a little bit later to check and see any comments, any hellos or anything like that that you might have. If it's your puppy's first Halloween, go ahead and put hashtag first Halloween, and we're going to come back through and send you a little gift. We do have an ebook that's featuring some videos. So it's a video book. Is that what you call it? A video book?
Ebook? Yeah. Yeah. Video
book. Okay. Video book. I know they always have some like crazy names and acronyms as they get going with those stuff. So I don't know I don't know what the newest one is, but to me, it's a video book.
Okay.
And we did revise one. So if you did get it last year, which was amazing, we have a little different version of the same type of book, more catering towards a puppy's first Halloween. And I'll go over like why this is important in just a minute, but we are excited to be here. So I am streaming live from Costa Mesa, California. And Corey, where are you at?
I'm in Rossford, Ohio, which is the Toledo area.
Okay. Good. So I really put this together every year. So every year I think it's the 7th year in a row, but we put it together a little differently each time. Sometimes I'll do like a 5-day series, or it'll be a very long, masterclass, or we'll have a workshop where you have your dogs with us and with you, and we'll do some stuff on the screen. This year, this masterclass is just a one and done. You'll get a copy of it. We'll have ebooks to help facilitate the learning, but mainly we want to get this out there as far reached as possible. So please share the link. It is YouTube. It is a free workshop or masterclass. So get that information out there so that we don't have any puppies that are afraid of this amazing holiday. So after class, you'll see the link to this masterclass and our ebook featured in the description underneath YouTube. But we are looking to inspire and motivate you to spend more time with your puppy. But for some reason, if that means that you're not able to on the Halloween, you've got other things to do, we're going to teach you what you can do to help keep your puppy nice and safe. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Corey.
I am Corey McGregor. Like I said, I am from the Toledo area. For many years, I was a zookeeper at the Toledo Zoo, and it's actually where I first started learning about training animals. Using positive reinforcement methods are honestly the best way to go, because when you're working with very large animals, exotic animals, wild animals, there's really no other way to do it other than to give them the choice to participate. So it's what I love. It's what I know. It's what makes me happy. I'm a certified professional dog trainer, and as you can see, dog training is always changing. It's a changing experience for trainers, for animals, in the industry in general. So we really believe in ongoing education, which is why you see the number of certifications here that you see, because of, as things progress, there's always something more to learn.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I love that Corey has a different background as far as like getting into animal training from the zoo, from the line of using like more of the zoo line versus just with dogs, or other animals such as that we have, in our homes, because you'll have a much different approach. You're always going to be kind of hands off with the animals, and there really is no way to force an elephant into a contained area, right? You can't use
More or
force
less.
with this.
I mean, there have been methods in the past where we use free contact and more aversive methods that are actually not in practice anymore. It was very dangerous to both the animal and the handler. So, like we said, as you learn more, sometimes you have to learn from mistakes, and that's the unfortunate part of things. But now we know we don't have to make those same mistakes. So it's come a long way.
And my background is I actually was in a fitness background. So I've always been in training in one way or another for the last 35 years. But gosh, it's almost 35 years. So going into training animals, I went through Karen Pryor Academy, and they focus on, most dogs, but we do cats. I did a chicken training. Curtis had to train a rabbit. But we got a chance to really see a different way of learning, like really understanding how the animals learn, and being able to put together pieces that help pet parents understand how their animals learn, and not to rush the journey. I enjoy training, whether it's humans or dogs or cats or whomever, but I enjoy the process. I like to make things very simple and easy. I like to use lots of stories and analogies. And I want to enjoy the whole journey as we're, training with our animals. I feel like if you can get in the mindset of having that's what I like about Halloween, it's like it makes me happy. And so I created positive associations with Halloween with both my dogs, Bandit and Bentley, who you see featured here in this picture. When I pull out a costume, my dogs come towards me because they know that like it means we're probably going to do some tricks. I'm most likely going to give them some food, or we're going to play some toys, but I'm going to give them a lot of attention for sure.
Right.
All right. We do have our special grand opening. It's basically a Halloween party. It's going to be the first Halloween party at the facility because we just opened almost 6 months ago, 5 or 6 months ago. So it's really, I'm really excited about it. Going forward every year, I'd like to have a Halloween party without the grand opening part. But basically, we'd love to get everyone in the community. If you're nearby, Huntington Beach, Seal Beach, Sunset, Irvine, Newport, Costa Mesa, we'd love for you to stop by. We will be featuring something between 11 and 3 o'clock. So we're going to start off with, we've got vendors coming over. We've got some amazing vendors. Rock of Cages is going to be there. They're going to be custom crates and things. They actually do a pool. She sent me a picture of one, a custom pool for a dog with a like gazebo over it.
No way.
So, yeah, she is really amazing. We've got Alex is going to be there. She's going to be showing you some of the like pumpkin pie and sweet potato pies that you can order this holiday season for your dogs, which would be kind of cool. Yeah. We've also got our sponsors, Sentinella. We've got Sunstone Animal Hospital, and also we've got our Unicorn Grooming. So they'll also be there. So during the festivities, we've got a Halloween costume that will feature between 12 and 1 o'clock. You just come in with your dog in costume, you in costume perhaps, and we've got several different prizes, some pretty good baskets to give away for prizes. We also have what we call a talent show, which I'm really excited about. This is where we just showcase the dog's talents. So as you know, we run an all-day school program. So we're actually going to be featuring some of the dogs from our program. We're going to just kind of show off what they do, whether that's loose leash walking, or maybe they can stay at a station while the handler goes away 10 feet. Sometimes it'll be one of the trainers that are handling the dog, and sometimes a pet parent will be brave enough to go up on and show us what they got. But I will be featuring my 2 dogs, and I'll do a little trick routine or show off some of the tricks that they do in costume. We'll have our announcing our contest winners around 1 o'clock, and then there's a raffle going all afternoon. We'll announce the raffle prizes around 2:30. There is food, drinks, and there is definitely some trick-or-treating for your dogs. So please, what you can do if you can't make it to the event, please send out on your social media, email, friends, invite everyone you can to this event. It's going to be a blast. And I'm sorry you're going to miss it, Corey.
I know. I'm really bummed. It sounds like it's going to be amazing. Right up my alley.
So for today, I would love if you have a brand new puppy and it's their first Halloween, that we can do the same that I did with my own dogs and that Corey's done with her dogs, is make sure that your puppies have a positive association to everything that's got to do with Halloween. The props that you put in your front yard, the spooky things that are all around your house, the neighborhood that all of a sudden comes up with cobwebs. And I mean, I've got this one house that is just like Halloween puke. It is coming out of the trees. And during the day, the dogs are like, no problem. But at night, they turn everything on. So it's like spooky music. It's the smoke. I mean, they really do. And I really enjoy it. I enjoy it. And I think it's great for our dogs too. So I'd love for them to have a great association. I'd love for you to build a stronger bond during this time of year, because this goes right into the rest of the holidays, guys. Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's right afterwards.
It's just a snowball.
It does. And so this is going to kick off all of that. And you're going to see if you really dedicate some time and some energy into creating this association where your dog absolutely loves the holiday as much as I do, and hopefully you do, then you're going to notice the rest of the year, the things that are going to go on around Thanksgiving and Christmas is going to be a breeze. Couple more things is with watching this. Yes, that's being recorded. We do have a video book. So again, that video book will be featured down below in the description sometime this afternoon. And if you'd like, you are welcome to come and attend our live tricks class on Tuesday, October 22nd at 11 o'clock, where I'll be featuring. And Corey, if you can make it, I'd love for you to be there. We'll team teach. But we've been teaching this class for years, and it's a tricks class where your puppy, your dog of any age, learns how to do tricks, and we're going to put them together in a little sequence. All right. Today's topics are, we're going to talk about why is Halloween so spooky, and why are we dedicating this time and effort into making a difference on the Halloween for your dog. So we're going to talk about why it's so spooky for a puppy. We're going to talk about getting costume ready. And that doesn't mean just for your puppy. It means for us as well. When we're putting on a costume, that can scare the bejesus out of your puppy, especially if they don't know what's going on in those horrific masks that are out there that are now like, I tried on some masks last night, or was it 2 nights ago? And they're like flashing. They've got like, they're gone crazy lately. We're going to talk about knock knock, which is when people are at your door, your trick-or-treaters are at your door. What do you do with your dog, your puppy that's not probably trained as well to just hang out there? We're going to talk about creating a safe and calm space for your puppy in case you have a party, you've got festivities, kids running around. And then we're going to go over a few, just maybe 2 tricks that I'd love to just kind of show for you. We're going to try to wrap this up in 75 minutes. So we're going to be talking fast, but you can always watch the recording later. If you've got a question, remember, just jump into that comment. You can say hi, hello, or ask a question and we'll be able to see it live. I forgot I was like, I've got black paint on my hand, but I realized I've got a black nose.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. So let's go into why so spooky, understanding a Halloween from a puppy's point of view. Well, let's just kind of think about that. If you think about the festivities of Halloween, not just the day of, but you've got the, costumes, you've got the neighborhood, you've got the smell of smoke, and then you've got like the schedule's kind of messed up, maybe the kids usually get home and they do homework and play, and now they're all rushing out to do trick-or-treating. Maybe you're going into your car. So everything's a little like off, right? For a puppy, that feels uncomfortable because they don't know. They can't understand the dialogue that you're having with your kids, or it's okay, it's not a big deal. They're like, yeah, it's a big deal. This black spider is very spooky, very scary. So it's not normal this time of year for us to wear baggy clothes and things on our head because it's been 110 degrees outside, right? So we go from wearing barely anything to all of a sudden wearing all this like weird stuff. It can be spooky.
Yeah.
So if you have a dog that overreacts if you have an older dog or a puppy, and they're overreacting every time a child comes in a room, or a man comes, to the door, or the mailman or the FedEx, we often think, oh, they're just a puppy. But it's not just they're just a puppy. They're trying to tell you, I don't feel comfortable with this. And it's important that we understand, like, to go through some steps to help them feel comfortable, right? So we're going to go into that in just a second. So when we think about why is a puppy, or why can they be so afraid of things, or why are they afraid of things? Typically, when we get a new puppy, we're doing an assessment. Some will be totally confident, right, Corey? They'll be,
yeah. It seems like something phases them.
Yeah, nothing phases them. They walk in, their just tail is always flowing. They're like, what's up? Yeah, I'm here. That kind of puppy. And then you've got the other puppy that's like, oh my God, like, what's that? Oh my God, is that a noise? And they're freaking out. Their body's always kind of like moving, quickly. They're also sometimes pretty stiff, like their body is a little bit stiffer. So those puppies really come from a place a little differently than a confident puppy. Most puppies are kind of even in the same litter, we're going to see a wide variety of what we call like temperament. So when we're doing an assessment, we can say, well, this one's a little more this or a little more that. And it just depends on the environment. So just because they're confident in one environment, if we change things, we pop up an umbrella and put it on the floor, the puppy might be like, oh my gosh, what is that? So we often think that the puppies are having, they have had a bad experience, and that's why they're afraid of, let's just say, a man that comes into the room. They'll be like, oh my God, what's that? It doesn't always mean it's a bad experience. The other reason could be a lack of experience, or experiences, or socialization. They didn't get enough repetitions to understand that that's not a big deal. It's just a guy with a sweatshirt on, right? Yeah. Or a child, like some pet parents don't have the ability to have children be around their puppy safely, right? So sometimes the lack of experience can cause a puppy to be afraid. And then genetics. And we're going to talk about all three of these in just a minute. But those are the three typical reasons of why a puppy is or can be afraid of whatever is, whatever that experiences that they're going through, whether it's a trigger, whether it's a prop, whether it's Halloween. Just understand, even if it's the harness, like, it's just they're afraid. There's lots of different reasons. You want to know why as much as possible so that you can know how to help them get to the other side of that. You also want to know if your puppy is afraid. You do want to go through the steps to help change the way that they feel. And that is called changing association, changing how they feel about that specific thing. In this case, Halloween. All right. So bad experiences. So I do have a little story to tell you about bad experiences. I'm going to say it really quick, and then I'm going to have Corey go into some more examples of bad experiences. Really quickly, I had a client. She got a black, I think it was a black lab from, I think she came right from the rescue. That's right. She called me on her way home, and she was like, got this puppy. brought him home, and she's got 2 little kids, and she knows how to manage an X-Pens and stuff like that. She kept the puppy separated from the kids right at first. But by day 3 or 4, the kids were getting comfortable with having a puppy in the house. They were keeping their distance. By day 3 or 4, the kids started bringing kids over from the neighborhood. So pet parent kept them separated because she, the sharp teeth and all of that. She kept them separated. In fact, she had the kids on one side of the screen, and then she had the puppy on the screen. So there was one outside, and then the kids were inside. And I can't remember which way it went. Long story short, the puppy was mouth open, curious, sitting by the screen, and the child fell down into the screen and caused a really loud noise. And the puppy didn't get hurt, of course, but it startled the puppy.
Oh, yeah. So scary.
Yeah. And the puppy ended up identifying this child was what happened. So
yeah, basically,
because this child fell down onto the screen, this child, this kid is the one that the puppy was afraid of, not the screen, not the part of the house, none of that, but this child. So the next day when the child came over, the pet parent gave the child some, food, and she was having him toss. Puppy started growling right away. The child didn't even get, towards because she, again, kept them separated. And it took a lot of repetitions, to help change this puppy's mind. But that experience of causing that kind of stress to the puppy, the fall into the screen falls, made that puppy go, from now on, this is how I feel about you. Right.
Yeah.
And so then they went through the process helping change, and that puppy is now able to go everywhere. They sent me some pictures of them camping, and it ended up being, they thought was just a black lab. It was like a black lab mastiff, something, was like a big dog. So
yeah, I was gonna say it got a lot bigger than it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
All right. So tell us a little bit about bad experiences from what happens in the puppy's brain when they start to see something that they think is a negative.
Yeah. So that story is a really perfect example because, just like we make connections and associations, the dogs and puppies have the capacity to remember and associate things that happen, specific stimuli, with certain experiences. So in the case of Yo's story, it was the puppy with the child. And sometimes for trainers, that can be a difficult thing to kind of pull apart because we don't know exactly what the puppy was afraid of. We can make a good guess, but maybe we would have thought it was the screen door. And so we practiced with the screen door. So it's, they experience things similarly, but also differently. And sometimes those associations aren't necessarily conscious ones, something that has been classically conditioned. It kind of lingers in our subconscious. So it's altogether a survival mechanism. It's designed to help our puppies identify and avoid potentially dangerous or threatening situations based on their past experiences, is what their outlook is for future experiences. So when a dog has a negative experience with someone, say a person reaching out, kind of like, the zombie in our picture here, in a manner that scares them or hurts them. So imagine somebody dressed up, that face paint, that's not normal. Something with a big hat that moves around, that's not normal. That now the brain is making that connection, that action, me reaching toward, your puppy to pet them, might cause fear or pain. And then that kind of becomes something that happens over and over again, especially on Halloween night. If you take your puppy out trick-or-treating, they're going to encounter that quite a bit. This can be especially strong if the event was very distressing or very traumatic, and especially if that puppy had been injured, and like in Yo's story, that would have made things a little bit more challenging too. And like that dog in that their impressionable phase, a fear impact stage, a critical developmental period where that traumatic stuff tends to stick really hard. After an event like this, the dog sees another person holding out their hand, moving in a similar fashion. The dog is going to remember those previous traumatic events and react fearfully. Sometimes we don't necessarily understand why, because it's not abnormal for us, but again, we're looking, why so spooky? This whole section is based on your puppy's perspective.
Yeah.
It can manifest in various ways. So you might see your dog cowering, hiding behind you, growling, shaking, lunging, biting in more extreme circumstances. So if they've kind of been pushed too far or too many times or something like that. Like we said, it's not necessarily about the person, but they're trying to protect themselves from something that they see as a potential threat or a dangerous situation for themselves. So it's very important for us as our dog puppies owners, people, caretakers. We want to recognize these signs to understand that this behavior doesn't mean that the dog is inherently aggressive or bad. I think that is a very quick leap for a lot of owners that don't necessarily understand what's going on. And then that becomes the whole situation becomes stressful for the family. It's just simply a response to past trauma. So addressing and reconditioning these responses requires patience, understanding, empathy, and very often the assistance of a professional trainer or even a behaviorist. So it's our responsibility to approach them with empathy, understand their history, their needs, and work with them to regain trust and rebuild positive experiences.
So a couple takeaways from there is just that you can change the way a puppy feels about an experience, even if it was a bad experience. You do need to go through a process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a process that a lot of us trainers know, but it is something that is not, it's actually really simple. It's just, you've got to do the repetitions, right?
Yeah, it is actually a simple process, but time consuming, or can be.
Can be, yeah. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes a puppy can go from feeling a certain way to quickly within one session going, okay, well, I guess that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
So talking about lack of socialization, a lot of times when we get puppies that come to our program that are after their socialization stage has closed, they're still in the puppy stage. But what we notice that sometimes if they haven't had enough repetitions, they tend to either process information a little bit longer or not take those first initial steps. So we're having to motivate them. Now, typically, if a puppy has had the repetitions, what it's going to look like when I present something that's unfamiliar, right? I'll put it down on the floor. Most of those puppies that have had that experience are going to go right over to there and they're going to sniff it. They're going to go, does it move? Does it? Okay, no big deal. If the puppy has not had a lot of those experiences, what it looks like is typically they're going to stand back a little longer. They're going to approach it sideways. They might not ever approach it. And so then the way that we handle the situation and helping a puppy get more comfortable with a Halloween prop or whatever is going to be different based on what they're giving to us. So for a puppy like that, that's really kind of, you're showing signs of fear. The puppy is, approaching it sideways, whale eyes, ears back, tail tucked, really stiff body, sometimes mouth closed, kind of like you see this puppy here behind the owner. That tells us, okay, we're going to have to motivate the puppy to change the way that they think about that and give them some positive repetitions. So it's not that they had a negative experience. They just didn't get enough repetitions. As a trainer, our goal is mainly, can I give you some more repetition? So I get them through that first time of having an experience with something brand new. And the dog goes, well, that wasn't too bad. And what I'll do is I like to time it, because then I'll put another prop down in the same environment where the puppy still feels comfortable, and I'll time it. What I notice, what we test for, and what we get as our, what we see happen is that the puppy spends less time stressing about the fact that it's a new object and more focused on, well, let me go experience that thing again. And that's how we can get some repetitions in to finally go, okay, now this puppy is pretty comfortable with a brand new objects. So lack of socialization or lack of experiences can cause a puppy to come from a place of, I'm always going to be afraid. So there is a way to change that if that's your puppy now. It's just they've got to get those repetitions in. So when it comes to the puppy socialization stage, we think about, well, where is this puppy going to be? Typically it's, around the neighborhood, going with the pet parents, family and friends coming over if they've got kids. So every single family is going to have a set of things that they need to have their puppy experience with, because that's their life. This is what this puppy is going to have to go through all the time. So you think about the holidays, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, 4 big holidays in a row. What is your life going to be like for your puppy? You want to have those experiences happen. Many, many, many repetitions should be positive or a neutral experience for your puppy, so that they don't have an overreactive response or show fear or be anxious, because what that'll look like is barking, lunging, spinning, not wanting to eat, kind of stressing you out, right? Not allowing you to enjoy the holidays because now you're worried about your puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, kind of we talked about earlier, the different puppies are going to have different personalities and different temperaments going into it. So it's really going to be important to, and we'll talk about this shortly, but recognizing what is normal for your dog, and then making sure that along every step of the way, you're checking back in and saying, okay, is this okay? If it's not okay, then you have to recognize what they're saying is not okay and then back off, so that we don't accidentally push too far ahead before they're ready.
Yeah. So good and bad experience, lack of socialization and experience are something that we can control. That's why, like, when you're buying a puppy from a breeder, we're looking for a breeder that gives a puppy as many experiences as possible, and that they're all positive or neutral. So, stepping on an unstable surface or hearing a fire or police siren, those are all not brand new. The vacuum cleaner. So that's something that we can control. And this next one, genetics, is something that's really kind of hard to control. So let's go into genetics, Corey.
So while environment, training, socialization, they all play critical roles in shaping a dog's behavior and temperament, genetics does also hold some significant influence. So there's going to be some things that we are not going to be able to be in control of. It's a very complex interplay between nature, genetics, and nurture, the environment that we're raised in, that determines a dog's overall disposition. So it's a combination of all of those kinds of experiences. Genetics is the code written in an organism's DNA that you inherit from your parents, dictates everything from your appearance to certain behavioral tendencies. So here's how genetics can influence a dog's propensity for fear and anxiety even. So predisposition. Some breeds are more naturally inclined to be wary or anxious, even reactive. So for instance, herding breeds may be more alert and reactive due to their historic roles, what we initially bred them to, selecting for these particular traits because of the job we wanted them to perform for us. So they're going to be more alert and reactive and not know what to do with all of these children running around. So those quick reactions are beneficial, but it's important to understand that there's a vast range of individual personalities within every breed, just like there are with people. And not all members of a particular breed are going to exhibit the same characteristics. So there's a range. Inherited temperaments. Just as we inherit physical traits, dogs can inherit behavioral traits from their parents. If one or both of a puppy's parents are particularly anxious or fearful, that puppy has a higher chance of displaying similar behaviors, even if it's raised in a very supportive environment. There's the development of the brain and receptors in the brain, that those are physiological things that your DNA codes in. So if there's a particular function of the brain, or maybe you're lacking certain receptors or have more receptors than you should, for a particular neurotransmitter, which is the chemical messenger that carries all of the information to nerve cells, responsible for muscles and glands, and all of the hormonal interplay that goes on in your body. If that's a physiological trait that's been inherited, that's going to influence behavior over long term. Poor breeding practices, inbreeding or the breeding of closely related dogs, amplifies undesirable genetic traits, including those linked to fear and anxiety. Breeders more interested in profit than the health and temperament of the dog can inadvertently perpetuate these traits. They're not necessarily looking at the health of the puppies that they're producing as their highest priority. Early development. So the environment in which a puppy is raised during its first few weeks of life, even before they come home to you, leave their mom, come home to you as their new home, can have lasting effects. Puppies born to a stressed out mother may, due to environmental or genetic factors, be more predisposed to anxiety. So that being said, it's really important to recognize that genetics is not destiny. It plays a role, but it's not set in stone. It's not concrete exactly, what kind of temperament you're going to get out of your dog. So while a dog may have genetic predisposition to fearfulness or anxiety, in the right environment with positive training, careful socialization, many dogs can overcome and manage these tendencies effectively. So on the opposite side of things, if a dog, even the dog with the most perfect genetics, you have the pick of the litter, you get the best one. They can still develop fear, anxiety, if exposed to traumatic experiences or a negative environment, especially if those things are prolonged. So understanding the role of genetics can help. Understanding the role of genetics can help dogs approach fearful and anxious dogs with more empathy, recognizing that behaviors are not always the result of poor training, but can be deep-seated in the very makeup of the dog itself. So as always, patience, love, empathy, understanding, these are the tools that we need to help them navigate the world.
It's one of the questions we ask when we first meet a pet parent is, what do you know about the background of your puppy? Especially if they're getting from a rescue, what did you get a chance to meet the parents? At least knowing what the breed could possibly be can help us develop a proper outlet, a plan for this puppy. And that doesn't mean that particular puppy is going to always do it, this way, but just understanding what possibly where it could come from is always really important when we're trying to figure out the puzzle of, what do we do about this dog? All right. So what does fear actually do to your puppy? And let's wrap this up pretty quickly, Corey. So what is it actually? What is the physical and emotionally? So go for it.
So you are going to see physiological and adaptive changes. So changes in your dog's behavior to help them cope. Some of the physical reactions, digestive problems, accidents, or your dog can develop obsessive behaviors and even aggression. It's generally not where puppies go right to aggression, but it can lead to that when we don't notice or we don't recognize the signs of the fear.
I think it's just like us, right? When you're afraid, you're either going to bite your nails or your stomach gets a little upset, or you eat or you drink, or you do these things. And I'm sure, it's same for our puppies. When they're feeling, like, what do I need to do to get myself back into a more calmer state? So that, it does explain some of the obsessive behaviors and digestive issues, as well as like not wanting to participate in training and things like that when they're afraid. It's one of the things that a lot of pet parents don't see the signals of is when their puppy goes outside for maybe the first time because they've, been, not completely vaccinated and they're going into a new environment. A lot of pet parents have a hard time going, why are you so afraid? It's just, but the reality is it's a different smell, different, the unknown is always a bit scary for some of these pups.
Absolutely. And I think the unknown, that right there is the biggest, I think the biggest factor is it's, you might not have had this experience yet. So we think maybe you shouldn't be afraid of it yet, but you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's where that anxiety comes from. So fear is an emotional response to a perceived danger or a potential threat that leads to a physical reaction. So an emotional response leading to a physical reaction by the body. So this is what we all understand as fight or flight. So whether you are going to defend yourself or you're going to take off running. You don't really know what you're going to do in that situation, and you don't know how your puppy is going to react either. But fear is normal, and when fear is a good thing, it means that it's a response that protects us from danger and helps us to survive. Think about predators in the wild. If they didn't have a strong fear response, you get eaten. Fear responses can be problematic. Of course, when that reaction becomes out of proportion to the actual trigger or the perceived threat, that's when we have to take a closer look at what's going on. And then when you have repeated exposure, chronic stress, the conditioned responses, so those out of proportion responses that we're seeing, they become stronger, they become more ingrained. Your dog becomes more sensitive and then more likely to react. So it's just kind of one of those things that builds one thing on top of the other.
I started smiling when you were reading that. You were talking a little bit about that because we just went to Not Scary Farm, and some of the group, the staff, all of us pretty much went, and a lot of them had never been there before. So we were going on mazes, and talk about the unknown, because you're walking in, you smell, and it's dark. And what I like to do is, because I'm like, give them space, so I like, so that we're the first ones going to have that experience, so that we don't like know that there's something scary right there. So as we're going through there, we had different personalities. So I would just kind of smile and laugh. I had one girl would run, right? She'd literally run.
Yeah.
One girl would throw the other person in front of them. So
yes,
they're like,
that's me.
If I was really afraid, that's my go-to, is on somebody else. But someone literally did a back bend at this, where, because the thing came out, literally like flew backwards on the floor. So it just made me think of like, that's exactly what our dogs do, right?
Yes, yes. And like I'm like feeling anxious just thinking about it, because I don't like that kind of stuff. So yeah, when it's kind of what we're doing to our dogs, isn't it? Sometimes. So the physiology of fear. So what exactly happens to your body, to your puppy's body, when fear hits them? Well, the brain alerts the nervous system. Okay, there's a threat. Let's respond. Stress hormones flood the body very quickly. Cortisol and adrenaline, you've probably heard of those things. Blood pressure, heart rate, respiration all increases, and blood begins to flow away from the heart and into the limbs. And this happens fast. It happens very quickly. Think about how, like, when you were just talking about going through like a haunted house or one of those scary mazes, think about how quickly you're like,
I mean, we're talking about puppies, but this is the same for us as well.
It's absolutely the same. Yeah. So you can make that direct correlation. Like, how would I feel if someone did this to me, or if I were, someone purposely scared me or something? I know how I feel. Like that's exactly what's going on. So the blood flows away from the heart and into the limbs, and this is so that you can, run or fight or flight. This is what is giving your body that ability, because like you're going to turn into a track star. Like you may not know exactly how fast you can run until the adrenaline hits your body, right? Yeah. So, but then there's something else happening where you start to lose the inability to reason and make good decisions. So the cerebral cortex of the brain is responsible for that decision making and reasoning and judgment. And that just like turns off. And then after that, stress hormones can linger. They generally dissipate quickly. But if you have had that startle experience and it wasn't a fun experience, you can feel it for a couple of days later. Like you might have a little bit of a headache, your body might be tired, your stomach might be upset. So those stress hormones can linger. And, say it's a couple of days later and then there's something else happens within those 3 days, that kind of keeps the body in a state of stress. Chronic stress and prolonged exposure to stress hormones starts to really affect physical health, let alone mental health. So it's a whole process.
That actually leads into trigger stacking, which is going to be our next slide. But really quickly, pain and discomfort. If a puppy is in pain, whether it's a digestive system, a toothache, a cut, they've stepped on something, those are other reasons why a puppy can overreact. Like you said a little bit earlier, they can overreact to what something that could be totally normal, but it could be also a reason why they're a little more sensitive to being afraid or spooked out. So just understand that it's not always them being a puppy. Sometimes it's just something that they're experiencing that we want to make sure that they're not just being irritable, right?
Right. Yeah.
So really quick about trigger stacking. It's a term that we normally use, not with puppies, but we thought we'd throw it in here anyways. It's got a lot to do with, like you said earlier, there's your normal response. So like if your puppy gets not attacked, but your puppy has a bigger puppy lay on top of them and pin them down, a normal response would be to bark and, move quickly and then run away. That would be a normal. I'd be like, that's fine. But if your puppy, has the same dog just walk towards them with, a really happy body, very loose and everything, and your puppy overreacts, starts barking, lunges, bolts the other way, I would say that's a little unreasonable, an unrealistic response, something that we would say, okay, let's dig into deeper why this is happening, because that's probably going to progress to something later on, right?
Sure.
So trigger stacking is a term that a lot of trainers use when we notice something all of a sudden, because then we're going to say like, well, why is it all of a sudden? Let's go back and let's look at some of the experience your puppy has had over the last few days. So in the Halloween, if we talk just specifically about Halloween, we could think about like, okay, so you go out in the morning, your puppy goes out and they experience freaking jack-o'-lantern that's like going left and right and it's in the yard. From there, they go around the corner and there's, this picture of a mummy coming out of there and it goes, ha, ha, ha. So this noise comes out of there, right? Loud sound. And then, at the same time, 10 kids come out of the house screaming with Halloween costumes. So even though this is not a big deal, if it was just one thing at a time, your puppy had time to process, they digested, they go, okay, that wasn't that bad. They got to recover. But when it happens over and over and over in a short amount of time, meaning 24 hours or 2 days of multiple things, and your dog is every time tensing up, showing signs of stress, what happens is that towards the fourth, fifth incident, your dog has an overreactive response to something that's like, what are you looking at? It's just, it's just Charlie. It's it's our 8-year-old son, So changes in the routine, costume, decorations, all these things impact a puppy. And all of a sudden they have this overreactive response. Now, as a puppy, it's usually running away, but it can be bite. It could be biting. It could be jumping. It could be just like zoomies, like all the things pet parents call me about is usually, I'm like, okay, give me some incidents. What's gone on? And I'll find out, well, the puppy didn't get enough chance to recover. So there wasn't enough sleep. It just happened in a short amount of time. Sometimes it's a groomer appointment. Then they went to the vet. Then they got a car ride. Then they did this and it's just too much. That's why it's really important that we allow our puppies to recover, plenty of sleep, and to have them be alone, at home, confined in their own space where they feel comfortable and safe. You don't have to always bring your puppy everywhere that you go, especially when you might experience all these things in your daily, schedule. Your puppy doesn't maybe not be ready for all of those experiences to happen in such a short amount of time. So by being mindful of trigger stacking and understanding that might happen, you can set your puppy up for success by allowing your puppy to perhaps not participate in your entire daily routine. So manage the exposure of what your puppy is going to experience. Limit what exactly they're going to experience. And that might mean not taking your puppy trick-or-treating. There's very, very few dogs that are going to be thinking, this is amazing, right? Most of them are going to be freaking out. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but I would definitely think about limiting the experiences you have with your puppy. Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, just kind of like you said, all of these things can happen 12, 24, 48 hours. When we think about it in terms of trigger stacking, things that are happening on different days. When you think about taking your puppy out trick-or-treating, all of these things are happening in like a 2-hour time frame. That is a lot. Yeah. That is a lot. Yeah. So we know we want to take our puppy, do everything. We're excited, and we've been told we need to expose them to stuff. We've been told, we need to socialize them. But you have to kind of recognize the line between overdoing it and carefully socializing.
Letting them process the information too, you know? So like we like to do a field trip, but then they play right afterwards and then they sleep. So we do a specific order that works where the puppy goes, okay, that was not so bad. But you keep them out there all over and over and they're not getting that time to process and rest. It can, you know, take them on tilt. So there's your, by being mindful of understanding that there is a term called trigger stacking. We use it a lot when we talk about the adolescent, adult, reactive dog. They learn a lot about trigger stacking. They actually journal all of their dog's daily routine. We'll talk like, what's the poop look like? What experience, what training did you do? Because even training can be stressful for a puppy because they're like, what are you trying to say to me? You know, that can be stressful. We usually journal a lot when you have a new puppy, but specifically when we're in a reactive dog or Rowdy Rover program, they journal a lot and we figure out if the dog was able to get back below baseline, how much time does that puppy need to sleep or rest or lick or chew in order for them to come down? What is that puppy's formula? What can trigger them and how much time do they need to recover? All right. One of my favorite parts, now that we got all that stuff out of the way. Yeah. Costume ready. So preparing your puppy to get used to seeing humans like Corey and I that are dressed up, or to feel comfortable wearing a costume themselves. So that is what we're going to go into next. So really quick, like this theme's super cute. Like we look at this and go, oh my God, they're so adorable. But if a puppy were to see those big heads on a human body dancing around, I'm sure that they are going to bolt. If that's
even for our young children, that can be a lot.
Yeah. So in order for your puppy to be okay with spooky things and letting them know that it's just me, you're going to want to follow these steps. You're going to want to read body language too and understand what your dog is probably thinking. So before introducing your dog to strangers in costumes out on Halloween, it's important for you to participate, whether it's you, your children, grab out all of the costumes and give them this experience. Don't just do it one time, guys. Do it several times so your puppy is totally comfortable. If you don't have costumes in the house, which, oh my gosh, you totally should, you can use face masks that you can get, like, you know, when you're doing a mask for your face.
The sheet mask.
Yeah.
Those are weird.
You can use scarves, puffy jackets, hats, sunglasses. So we're talking about any type of costume. Even the masks we wore for COVID for so long would be really spooky for a puppy these days because very few people are still wearing them. So when we say costumes, we mean anything. Okay. So you can pull anything out of the house, but we need to get them comfortable around costumes. So this is your month to do it. They're going to see it anyways, whether you don't believe in Halloween, they're going to experience it one way or another. So give them this experience and make sure it's a positive one. So to do that, it's 4 basic steps. Step 1, let them check out the costumes that you have, whether it's a jacket, let them check it out on their own by not wearing it. Let them just see it first on their own. Don't hover over them. Next, put the costume on, just like you're getting dressed in the morning with your puppy in the room. Let them see you put it on so that they go, oh, that's still you, but you're wearing all these weird things, right? Add some movement in the costume is next. So if your puppy's still comfortable, go ahead and add movement. Start trying things on, putting it on, checking it out, looking in the mirror. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. Just do the experience in front of them. And then lastly, go ahead and act the way you normally would in a costume. So if you've got a Dracula or you've got a kitty cat, you're going to mimic whatever you might potentially do in public or in private, so that your puppy cannot be completely spooked out. So I've got a video on all those steps. You can take a look at this video and I'll talk you kind of through what we're doing here. So this is Mr. Benji, and this is my friend Diane, who's always a great sport. she is pulling out her costumes. And if you think about that, if we only pull them out once a year, most costumes smell kind of weird, like body odor. And
you don't wash them.
Yeah. Rarely do you wash them. So you pull them all out. So this is an ideal. This would be a session. We did this session yesterday with Miss Lily, but we basically pulled all the costumes out. And what you're looking for, if you notice at the very beginning, I know you might be honing in on the costumes, but watch Benji. So Benji's heart rate's up. You can see him kind of panting. Now, doesn't mean it's because of the costume, but looking at body language, he was panting. Well, then he goes, okay, that's not a big deal anymore. So he put his head down, right? As she's trying on costumes, you don't need to have your puppy completely engaged with you the whole time, but you just want to have that experience in front of them. So she's trying on different things that sound certain ways, that move a certain way, right? Just like you would if you were trying on some clothes.
Yeah.
So that is your step one. Step two is start to put them on. Good. So here's her cape. And you can tell by Benji's body language, he is unaffected. She puts on her hat in front. So the puppy knows exactly who that is. She is not trying to hide and say that this is someone else. She'll start to actually move around in costume, not phased at all. Then she makes bigger gestures, bigger movements. She kind of shows off her outfit in front of her puppy and then starts to act the way she might act if she was really coming into a room. So you want to, again, do this in the presence of your puppy while they're watching or they're in the room. Before you go out, do not just go into the bathroom, get dressed, and then pop out in front of your puppy. That will scare them usually. Yeah. So it's best that they see everything that you're wearing. This next video is if you've got props. So, there's a little bit of audio on that. So getting your puppy comfortable about you wearing a mask. So you want to make sure, again, the mask was on the floor, didn't think anything of it. Now she put it in her hand. Next, she puts it on while the puppy's still in the area. She then offers some treats. The puppy can care less about what's on her face. And it's kind of spooky. Now, had she came out of the room and popped back in, totally different experience. So you have this experience a few times with your puppy in the room. The next video is if you've got props besides a mask. So you've got, like, I've got a big clown outfit.
Okay, and stand back. Good.
So this is a big hammer.
Good.
So we're taking the hammer and letting the puppy check out the prop that's going to be held later on.
Stand back behind it on this side right there. Good, and then I'll try to face her.
Sprinkle some treats around the prop. Before you put that prop in your hand, you want to make sure the puppy's okay with the prop itself. Then she'll go into holding the prop.
I wanted to show you the 3 videos. So.
And then the last part is, I'm going to fast forward this. The last part is she holds the prop, then she starts to move the prop, and then she starts to walk around with the prop. Again, it's part of your costume. If you have a costume that's got a prop like this, you're going to want to go through the steps of making sure your puppy is okay with it. All right. Next is helping your puppy be okay with people in costume leveling up. So that was all done in the home. To level up, you're going to want to make sure that your puppy is, you're in the home with your costume. Next is having someone else in the home with a costume. Go through the steps. You can be with your puppy while they just go through the steps of putting on a costume. Then you can start to take the costumes outside, and then you can start to do things from out of sight where they're walking around and then they see someone coming out without, that they hadn't seen get dressed. So they're not quite sure who it is until they get closer. So before you have them meeting strangers in costume, if you can go through these steps a couple times, your puppy will not care about what they're wearing. Anything you want to add on?
No, but well, just when I were watching the video, when you were talking about moving around the props and things like that, she didn't just pick it up right away. There are small steps along the way. She just kind of picked it up and moved it a little bit. So knowing when you can move ahead is, I think, something to pay attention to.
Yeah. So the step for that is with the prop was putting it on the ground, holding it still in another position, standing up and holding it, then moving it around slowly, and then moving it around the way that you will when you actually have the prop. And
Yeah.
what she's doing is she's holding the prop. The puppy can see the prop, but the puppy's not going to be interacting with the prop. It's just making sure she's comfortable with her holding this massive hammer. Being able to use your open hand to train, or if you've got two people in the room, one person can be messing around with the prop, kind of like playing with the baton or something. And then the other person can be rewarding or playing or doing petting or whatever your puppy likes in the same presence of that room. No different than, I guess, flipping up pancakes or something like that. Just doing things your puppy has never really seen before, right? But I love that, going slow. Great point. It's how do you know if your puppy's comfortable? Well, in this case, puppy was taking food. Her tail was moving, very flowing. So she was wagging her tail left. She was actually having a really good time with this. She didn't, all of her paws were underneath her body. So she wasn't like extended with her back paws all the way back there. She was moving around normal, going up and over the prop. If you saw, she kind of jumped over it. No big deal. Moving like she would if the prop wasn't actually there. So next is putting your puppy in costume. Now, again, most puppies do not like putting on a costume. It feels weird. It itches. Sometimes they don't fit right? So this lesson is transferable to other things. The way that we're going to go about showing you how and reading body language is the same steps if you were putting on a muzzle, if you're putting on a cone for your dog because they've just been spayed or neutered, if you've got a harness that's brand new that you want to put on your dog, a bandana, a collar, all of those things are things that your puppy is wearing. Shoes, glasses, goggles, all of those things, earmuffs for the noise. So anything that you're having to put on your puppy, these steps are going to apply. And I do have videos for shoes, muzzle, goggles, earmuffs, but they all are exactly the same. All right. On here, also, when it comes to putting on a costume, gradually introducing your puppy to the thing. I'm going to say costumes in this case, and don't ever force your puppy to go out of what they feel is comfortable. If you think of going really slow at your puppy's pace, they're going to change the way that they feel about things being put on, and it's going to make it easier going forward. So take the time to take all of those steps in so that you don't have a puppy that runs from you every time you want to try to put something on. All right. So, Corey, let's jump into what a puppy will do or what they look like when they're saying, no.
Well, if they're not comfortable in the costume, they're going to do what they can to get it off. You know, they might roll around on the ground, they might paw at it, scratch at it, rub up against something to try to dislodge it. So that's going to be really telling that they're not comfortable. But then when we talk about body language and what their body is saying, like in the video with Benji, pay attention to the body language. This is what we're talking about. There will be a series, or not a series, but several what we call stress signals that will give you an idea that the dog is using their body language and even vocalizations to say they're not comfortable, they're not okay with it. So lip licking, as you can see the dog in that bottom picture, tongues coming out and licking their lips. They're not eating anything, they're not drinking anything, and they're doing that. That's a sign that they're stressed. Yawning when they're not necessarily tired. Ears pinning back with the little Chihuahua mix there in the bottom. Those are all indications. flat whiskers, heavy panting, slinking away from you. Like if you're holding the costume and they're moving away, yeah, they don't want to participate in that case, or not taking food. That's a big sign, especially if you have a particularly food motivated dog and they don't want to have any treats, or they might take it and then drop it. That's an indicator. And then freezing, where the whole body just stiffens up, and that one's approaching a more serious reaction from your dog when they start to freeze like that. So first, you need to know what's normal for your dog, and then what they look like when they're stressed. Not all dogs are going to display all of these signals. Some dogs may only display a few of them, and it could also be an indication of how long they stay stressed or how many stress signals they show you. But this is a good range of what you could expect your dog to show you if they're not enjoying it or if they're uncomfortable with the process.
So it's really important to learn these, memorize them, and then as you go through the process of putting a costume, bandana, harness on your puppy, you look for these signals. If you come across the signal, slow down, take a step back, or stop. If you can remember to do that and not force your puppy to put on a costume, you're going to have a puppy that actually enjoys the process or enjoys putting on a costume. So we call this more of the cooperative care. So is this okay with you? If yes, so if you're not seeing those stress signals, you can continue moving on. Really want to point that out here. I have so many videos of puppies when we do this right, how different it is for these puppies. The experience is different. Couple things to keep in mind when you are doing a session like this, where you're going to be putting something on your puppy, again, harness, cone, in this case, costume. Number one, make sure that your puppy is in an environment that they feel safe and comfortable. Number two, the space that you use, they should not be pinned down, harnessed, leashed, anything like that. They should be able to walk away if they don't want to have that experience. So just like if anybody's done our cooperative care course, you go into the room, you kneel down, you sit down on the floor, you start to pull out whatever it is that you're going to put it on. And if your puppy's like, I'm out of here. Okay. Be okay with it. Try again another time. Okay. So big tip right there. All right. So let's go into the steps for this. Again, breaking it up into 4 steps. Step 1, it's going to sound very familiar to the prop. Put the costume out, let them explore it on their own on the floor. Don't hold it yet. Step 2, there's no stress signals there. Puppy's like, yeah, whatever. What is this thing? And start with the thing that you're going to put on your puppy that's the easiest. So if you've got a hat, glasses, scarf, outfit, shoes, I don't know, horn, whatever. Start with the very easiest thing that's going to be the easiest for your puppy to put on. You're going to then step 2, after your puppy's comfortable with it on the floor, you're going to toss the treat to reset, and then you're just going to hold the costume. Don't hold it and push it towards them. Just simply hold it. If your puppy is okay with it, so they're coming up to it, sniffing it, whatever, I would reward for any engagement, even just looking at it. Right? Step 3, if your puppy's comfortable with you holding it in your hand, because sometimes with that puppy's had a bad association with being, pinned down while they put a harness on, they start to see you holding something, they might bolt. Well, that's your message to you that you're going to need to approach things a little differently. You're going to probably have to retrain that, whatever it is that they're afraid of. So step 3, if you're getting good signs, your puppy's tail is still wagging because you're holding this costume. Step 3 is you can start to move the costume gradually towards them. So you're not going to touch them right away. You might just move it 1 inch and then you bring it back and you reward. Then you move it 2-3 inches, then you reward. And you go all the way to where you barely touch their shoulder. You put it on, you reward. Then next is you just lay the costume on their body and praise and reward for that. That is your 4 steps. So let's see what it looks like with Miss Lily here. So first we put all the costumes down on the floor. Can you hear that audio?
A little bit. It just sounds squeaky because it's like going fast.
Yeah. So we laid all the costumes out just so she got a chance to experience all of them. We're actually honestly trying to figure out which costume would fit her. And there was like 4 of them. The koala bear, the panda with, you know, those legs that kind of flap like that. We never put a costume on her, so we weren't quite sure. So we went with Spider. That was the costume that we chose. So she laid it out flat. And in this case, because she was trying to get her away from the other costume, she just placed some treats on the prop, on the costume, watching her body language. So her tail was a little tucked, but we don't know whether it's the environment, the fact she's training. Next, we went on to holding the prop. Again, she can leave at any moment. Pull the prop out each time, rewarding her for looking at it, touching it, nosing it. And you can see the tail start to wag there. Totally fine with us holding it. Next, she starts to move the prop towards her. Gradually moving towards the shoulder. There she kind of messed up. She put it on her pretty quickly. And now Lily has it on her and she can care less. So then we went on to going, okay, we need to fasten it. So these are your steps 5, 6, and 7. As I said, figure out how the prop is actually going to go. And she's going to place her prop over her arm and then have Lily grab food from her hand with the prop on her arm, which is gradually going to be slided over her head. She's now pinching the food and holding the food while she puts the prop on. Now she needs to move this costume. So she does so while she's eating. She puts the food on the floor so she can move Lily's head down while she fastens that. And now she's got a spider costume on. After this, it's moving the puppy in costume. It does sound like a chipmunk.
It's funny.
So we did put a second and a third costume on her, same kind of concept. This one went over her head. All right. Here's another one of Bandit, same thing, green costume. So on the floor, no big deal. Holding it, no big deal. So that's your step 2. Step 3, moving the costume towards the puppy. And then step 4, putting the costume on the puppy, just laying it over before you actually fasten button. I would then take a break, try it again later. All right. Here's a couple pictures of actually putting the costume on. If it's got a button or a sleeve or something like that, I've got a couple of videos on that. So any questions about getting the puppy costume on the puppy, please post it or comment below. After the puppy's comfortable with you just laying the costume on their body, but you now actually need to go over your head, over their head, these are the steps for that. So step 1, put the prop and hold it with one hand while your dog feeds. They see that the prop is directly in front of them. Your goal is to keep the head still while the prop approaches them. So one hand is still with food, and I'll normally pinch the food while I move the prop. The first couple times you move the prop, or I'm sorry, the costume, move the costume towards their head, but don't go over their head the first few times. Just move it. By the second, third time, you're then going over the head. And then at that point, you can go through the head, pinch the food while the puppy is eating. So here's our Waldo costume for Mr. Bentley. Food. Hold the costume with one hand, food with the other, and see how I keep my hand nice and still, but I slide the collar or whatever over the dog's neck. Keep them eating. This is how we create a positive association with putting something on. You can do that for hats, glasses, hats, scarves, shirts, sweaters, even goggles. For bigger props like sunglasses and hats, it's a little different. I don't think we need to go into it for this particular program, but you'll see here for this particular masterclass, but you see here, I'm going through the same process. If I want my puppy to wear anything, I'm going to introduce it exact same way. Look at Bandit. Look at Bentley. He's putting his paw on the hat. Like, can I put this one on? So he's wearing all three: bow tie, glasses. Notice that I reward. So this is your advanced version, is I do the costume first, then I reward. But in order to get there, you've got to start with that first steps. And here's the hat, same thing. Can you touch the hat? How about this? He noses it. I say, good, reward. All right, so we're going to move on. Practice and post. So that just means play dress up in front of your dog, practice positive exposure to costumes, bandanas, collars, harnesses, everything, anything that you could think of. Describe your dog's body language to yourself, to us. What's going on? What does the stress signals look like? What is his ears doing, his tail, all of that stuff. Have a practice with that. And then we're going to move on to knock knock, preparing your dog to the arrival of visitors with polite door manners or having to put your dog away. So teaching your dog to go to a specific spot and wait while trick-or-treaters are out the door is going to be what we're going to go through next. So a cue that I like to say is something like, they're here, or someone's at the door. Remember that can be the cue for your dog to go get onto a spot. So you want to ask yourself, well, what do you want them to do? Meaning, what do you want the puppy to do when someone is at the door coming over for trick-or-treating? Where do you want them to go? So what do you want them to do? Where do you want them to go? And how will you troubleshoot? So knowing if your puppy is not completely trained, you're not going to just give it a try on Halloween. You're going to want to practice it a few times before. But what if it doesn't work out? What's the next thing? So what if they're really spooked out, or they don't want to stay in that place, or they're barking, which can scare a lot of people that are at the door? Have your backup plan. And what will your cue be? Someone's at the door, trick-or-treaters are here, or go to your spot. Have that all dialed in before Halloween is actually here. So where will your dog go when someone's at the door? Specifically, we typically will put something like a bed, a mat. So something like this. This is Mr. Larry. This is over here Sammy going on to a bath mat. You could have a spot that has a leash attached to it, so you can tether your puppy to a piece of furniture. But whatever that is, have that plan and then begin the training. In this case, where will your dog go when someone's at the door? This is a platform and it's right near the front door. So perhaps that's what you train, right? So that your dog's able to participate in some of the adventures. Here's what door manners might look like. Door manners basically means that your dog is assigned to a spot, so goes to a place, a spot, a bed, or whatever that looks like, while the door is being answered. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't get help. You most definitely can have help, or someone else open the door, someone else staying with your dog. But your dog goes to a specific spot, then you're going to work your way to being able to open the door when the visitors arrive. You'll also want to practice pretending to talk to people and hand out candy, all while your dog stays put. So it's place training with what we call door manners, because when the door opens, it does not mean that the dog gets to bolt. So here's what that lesson or training looks like. You're going to reward your dog for going to a spot. And then Diane's going to repetition of just pretending to touch the door and eventually open the door all the way open until the dog hears some kind of release cue. She's opening the door a little further each time, returning back to the place and offering a reward on the table. So if your dog is not trained to do this and you don't have the time to do the repetitions, tethering your dog to that spot would be a really good alternative, right? Instead of assuming that the dog will stay. So here she is pretending to go all the way outside just in case she needed to. She's also pretending to talk to someone that's at the door. So you're going to mimic what that actually looks like on Halloween evening if this is what you're going to be doing on Halloween. So there's what it looks like when you have trick-or-treaters. The cue here is they're here. Of course, it doesn't work.
That's it.
Well, here's what it looks like. You've got kids knocking on the door, and you've got, I think it's Diane saying, oh, we've got trick-or-treaters. Go to your spot. They're here. And then while Bandit stays at their spot, the trick-or-treaters show up at the door. She passes out candy, keeping the door open. And then she goes back and releases him. So that's what it would have looked like, which we'll throw down later. All right. Can you really quickly just read this one? So we're going into our fourth topic, which is what if you've got a party going on and all of that stuff? So how to create a calm and safe spot for a dog.
Yeah, so Halloween is a time of spooks, goblins, and delightful frights where homes and neighborhoods transform into haunting fun and lots of decorations. But for our four-legged friends, these sudden changes can be genuinely bewildering and even scary. Like you had mentioned, there's a house in her neighborhood that just goes all out, and I also have one of those houses where they have a 10-foot skeleton that's like puking guts, and there's lights and there's smoke, and it's eye-catching for sure. It's essential to remember that dogs are going to rely heavily on their environment's consistency, and it can be naturally wary of unfamiliar objects and sounds. So our neighborhood houses don't normally look like this when we go for our walks. Some neighbors set up early, some neighbors set up the night of, so it could change. The environment can change very quickly, and your dog may not be prepared. These kind of ghostly figures swaying in the wind, those inflatables that kind of move around, glowing pumpkins, eerie sound effects. These are all novel stimuli, new things that might be unsettling. But fear not, with patience and training, you can the spooky season. Training and familiarization. Start by introducing Halloween decorations slowly. Let your dog sniff and expect them in a calm, controlled setting, pairing the experience with positive reinforcements like treats or praise. So this can be done like in your garage as you're unpacking stuff, getting ready to set up. Over time, this helps your dog understand that these strange-looking items are harmless. Nothing's going to happen. Create a safe space. Consider designating a retreat zone, a cozy, quiet corner away from the main action where your dog can retreat if the festivities become too overwhelming. Familiar toys, a soft bed, and soothing music or white noise can make this space even more comfortable. Limit your puppy's exposure. If your puppy is particularly sensitive, it might be a good idea to keep them away from the front door area altogether, where the trick-or-treaters will be continuously approaching in costume. The combination of the doorbell rings or the knocks, excited children, costumes, that's a lot for any pet to handle. Routine is key. Amid the Halloween hustle and bustle, try to keep your dog's daily routine, like feeding times and walk schedules, as consistent as possible. Walking in the neighborhood as these things are showing up would be a good way to help them get familiar with the decor as you move around the neighborhood. This routine provides a sense of normalcy and security. Positive reinforcement. Praise and reward your dog for calm behavior. And by associating these scary things with positive experiences, you can reduce that anxiety over time. Our dogs look to us for guidance and comfort. So by understanding their fears and providing a supportive environment, we can ensure that Halloween remains a treat for everyone in the household, our puppies included.
Perfect. So if we go into this section is basically like helping your puppy make sure they're okay with the props that you might have in your home, the Halloween decor and that you have in the neighborhood. I'm going to go through just really quickly. Same thing, 4 steps. Let them see you bring out the new decor, sprinkle some treats on them. let them explore without hovering over them, and do some training near the decor that you have out. You're going to do this in your home first. And then what we're going to show you in a minute is how we do this, like at our field trips on Home Depot. We go to the Halloween stores, and how that can carry on, that same training can carry on when you're out in the real world. And you can then use that at, like we've talked about, a neighbor's house that's got the Halloween decor like crazy. So again, we're over here at Diane's house. She's got these spooky props that move. So I told her to keep them really still. Yeah. And yeah, so that's how they move. Isn't that cool? So I said, keep it really still. Now you'll notice here, she is putting some treats near the props, but you notice the way that Brutus is moving. He's not completely okay with them. So she is taking some steps. He does like to do settle on the mat. So she put the settle on the mat near the props, kept those props nice and still. And she's just doing some training near the prop, so it's not such a big deal. Now, had she tossed a treat, he touched it, the thing would have fell over. That would have probably scared him. So be very mindful when you've got props that might fall over. Keep an eye on them, keep them secure so that does not happen. Did the same thing. This is called an ace-free setup. This is where we actually put the props out, and amongst other things like boxes and boogie boards, and let your puppy just explore it all so that nothing's a big deal. And here we've also got some stuff with wheels. This is, again, Mr. Larry. We even had the boogie board moving around the pumpkin. And he was like totally fine. This is a perfect activity for young puppies. Totally change the way they feel about spooky things, right? They don't care less. Spooky sounds is another thing that your dog has to get used to, the sounds and the smell. So when it comes to the sounds, you can find music on YouTube, play it at a very low volume where your dog's ears kind of twitch a little bit, and then do something fun with your puppy, whether it's training, playing, dancing, but have a good time. So we call this our Halloween boogie. So Diane put on some music, and she did a fun training session with each of the dogs, but she was also doing some fetch and just things where the dogs were all playing with each other too. Long story short, they could care less about the music.
Yeah.
Right? Sounds. We're going to wrap this up pretty quickly. This is called the Go Check It Out. So if you really got something that's scaring your puppy, one thing that we teach at the facility is to teach the puppies to go check it out, which means go over there and take a sniff. We mark it, and then the dog is rewarded for being so brave. Here's kind of what it looks like. So Bandit goes and puts his paw on it, but if he did anything, look at it, nose, paw, she's marking, and then she's rewarding. Now, we typically like to have the puppy go check it out, but then retreat back to the pet parent. So she's using a finger to get her dog to go engage with that. Yeah, there it is. Marks and rewards. Eventually, she can send the puppy to go check it out. The cue that we actually use on this one is go check it out, and then we point. So here's another one with Bentley doing it. You want to do this in your home where your puppy feels safe. Put it on a cue. Then you can start to level this one up and do this in the real world. So we did this over here, over at Home Depot. He's checking out the props that are there, and some of them are spooky, so you don't want to go for those first. But when you play the Go Check It Out game, they go, oh, we're playing that game again, right? So here's, we're playing with Sam right here, Sammy. Davey takes one of the pumpkins, lays it out in the hallway at Home Depot. Why is this one not working? Anyways, he puts the pumpkin down and he goes to tell Sammy, go check it out. And since Sammy learned that at the house already, he went over, sniffed it, and came back over to Davey to get a treat. Now, the day of Halloween or parties that you're going to, make sure that you have a prepared safe space where your dog feels totally comfortable, whether it's an X-pen, a bathroom, a space. If you've got a party coming over, just be mindful. Find a place in your home where it's quiet, away from all of the distractions. It's got a cozy retreat. The corner of the house or something like that where it's not quite as noisy, a little bit farther away from the festivities to not overwhelm your puppy. Make sure they've got their stuff in there, some toys, some bedding, and make sure you're able to also block the sounds that are coming from the scary, spooky parties or whatever it is that you're having. You can also put some music in there or TV to drown out the noises that are coming from outside. All right, so we're going to go through this last one really quickly. Tricks and treats. We've got a couple treats that we've got a couple tricks we'd love you to do after watching this workshop. Try to do for the rest of this week, which are going to be helpful for the door manners. But we do have our event that Tuesday at the end of the month where you can come in and learn some more tricks. So this one's called Send to the Platform or Place. You saw this in our live video. If you did with with Bandit and Brutus, they were both there doing that. These two guys are brothers, by the way. They're from the same litter. But you're going to choose a platform or place, a bed, a mat, a towel mat, a blanket, and then you're going to create a positive association with that object first. That's your step one. Teach your dog to get on the platform because they have had a great association. They're more likely to go over to that thing. Once they're doing that reliably, then you're going to put that on cue, then increase the amount of time that that puppy spends on that spot, then start to work on those small distance away, small movements away. Then you can add the distractions of you talking or people actually at the door. So here's a real quick video of what that might look like. So she's sending him to the platform. She's marking, she's rewarding, marking yes or clicking, offering a reward while the dog is on the station. She's also putting a release cue on there. Gradually, you want to be able to step away from your platform and add some distance. So now that you've got it on cue, go to your spot. You should be able to do it so you can gradually walk over to the door, but you can also send them away from 10 feet away to get back onto that platform and stay put. Notice that she is going to the dog and rewarding rather than releasing the dog and having the dog come to her. So this is how you get a really strong stay. Now, this is one of the many tricks that we'll work on that Tuesday. We'll actually do it live. You and your dog will be in class if you'd like. If you don't have a dog with you, can't participate at that time, come and just watch. One other really easy trick to do with puppies is called Which Hand. It's a great, easy trick, simple, and it really does help bring your puppy in front of you, and it helps them to just kind of use their nose and creates a really strong bond and confidence in your puppy. So you're going to take a treat, one in each hand, place both treats behind place your hands behind your back with the treats only in one hand, and then bring your hands right in front of your dog's nose, present them evenly, and then say which hand, and let your puppy guess which hand it's in. If they nose the right hand, go ahead and open your hand and give them the treat. If they nose the wrong hand, do nothing. Just wait for them to nose the correct hand. So Halloween tricks and treat class is Tuesday, October 22nd at 11 o'clock. Wherever you're watching this on YouTube, the link for that will be here in the description below a little bit later on this afternoon. And here is a little quick video of Bentley in one of his costumes. This is a little while ago, doing his little routine, his little tricks routine out in public at Peter's Landing. So once your dog's comfortable in costume and doing tricks, you can always put together something really cute together. All right, last slide here is if you want to learn more about our services, you can speak to myself, certified trainer, by either calling or texting that number, and we can set up a call. If you want to know a little bit more about how to implement cooperative care or getting your puppy comfortable around any of the costumes or things for Halloween or creating a safe space, please reach out. Our facility is off a beach in Ellis. We really would love to have you come to our big event on the 20th and get a chance to know us, get to see us, get to meet the trainers, as well as if you'd like to schedule a tour, we would love to have you there. So that is going to be on Sunday, October 20th, 11 to 3 o'clock. All right. And that wraps up our masterclass.
Yay.
Little
Super
over.
fun.
Yeah. Well, guys, again, please do us a massive favor and share this video, share this link out to any friends, family members, especially if it's going to be their first Halloween. We will have the ebook or the video book, so you can pretty much get all of this information in a short video book, and you can share that as well. Thank you, Corey, for joining me from Ohio, and love your witch's costume. Are you going to go trick-or-treating with your dog?
Possibly. I was not able to take them last Halloween, so this will be their first Halloween in the new neighborhood, in our new neighborhood that we're in. And there is a house that really sets up and goes all out. So I gotta start practicing. Got to start walking by and taking the route so they can see. A lot of our neighbors do decorate, so I've got to get them ready to go. But I think yeah, they've been trick or treating with us before. It's just they didn't go last year, so I think it'll work out well. So if they do well, then yeah, they'll go with us.
Good. I'm probably not going to take my puppies trick-or-treating because I have no business going trick-or-treating. We'll have some trick-or-treating at our event. So we have vendors that are going to be, and it's a dog trick-or-treat little route. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, that will be really fun. I can't wait to hear how that goes.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us. Happy Halloween, and have a safe and fun Halloween time with your pup. I'd love to hear some comments of how it went, what you thought about this workshop or masterclass, and what we can do to help make things a little bit simpler and easier for you and your puppy on any of your training journey. All right, we will end right here. Bye for now.
Bye.